6. UNIFSA, while supporting the efforts of the United Special Mission for Afghanistan, headed by Dr. Norbert Hall, calls upon the United Nations to take more responsive and bold stance for the cessation of foreign aggression, intervention, and interference as the most outstanding factor for the continuation of the conflict and blatant violation of human rights, particularly the rights of women in Afghanistan. 6. در حالی که مساعی حسن نیت هیئت خاص ملل متحد را برای افغانستان به ریاست آقای دکتر نوربرت هول حمایت می‌نماید، از ملل متحد مطالبه می‌کند تا در جهت قطع مداخلات خارجی به حیث عمده‌ترین فاکتور تداوم جنگ در کشور و نقض صریح از حقوق انسانی در کشور، خاصتا حقوق نسوان کشور، صریح‌تر و جرأتمندانه‌تر موضع گیری کنند. 7. UNIFSA calls upon the government of Pakistan to put an end to its antagonistic policy towards the Islamic State and the people of Afghanistan and declare its readiness for direct negotiations in order to establish normal and fraternal relations with Afghanistan. The government of the Republic of Pakistan is expected, instead of supporting one side to the conflict, to play a positive and effective role for the cessation of the conflict in Afghanistan, and UNIFSA in this respect reassures of the readiness of the government of the Islamic State of Afghanistan. 7. از مقامات کشور پاکستان دعوت به عمل می آید تا راه مخالفت را با دولت و مردم افغانستان ترک نموده، آمادگیشان را برای مذاکرات به هدف تأسیس روابط عادی و دوستانه با افغانستان اعلام کنند. همچنان توقع می رود جمهوری اسلامی پاکستان به عوض حمایت از یک جانب جنگ در افغانستان سهمگیری مفید، مثبت و مؤثر در ختم جنگ در افغانستان داشته باشند. جبهه در این زمینه از آمادگی دولت اسلامی افغانستان اطمینان می‌دهد. This is the end of the text of declaration, and now I'm ready to answer any question.
Which do you think is the most significant of those measures you've just announced, and why?
I think the most significant part of this declaration is the assurance the United Front is giving for some series of substantial changes in the format and composition of the government. This is for the first time that the government of Islamic State of Afghanistan is being entrusted with some steps to be taken, specific steps to be taken for the resolution of the conflict. You are aware that so far, as a result of the continuation of the conflict, we have not had the opportunity to convene a gathering of the people, authorized representatives of the people, in order to decide about the political destiny of the people of Afghanistan. You heard that the declaration calls upon the government of Afghanistan, which would be announced in the very near future, to take immediate steps for the consolidation of political process, the creation of a national council, and most importantly, the convening of Loya Jirga within 6 to 9 months. We are hopeful that we would be in a position to convene this Loya Jirga under the supervision of the United Nations within 6 months. Then as soon as we have the Loya Jirga, it would be for the people of Afghanistan to decide about the election of the future president, to adopt the draft of the constitution, law of parties, law of election, and to decide also about a specific date for the convening of general and free elections. By entrusting the government, you will easily realize the commitment on the part of the United Front to democracy and to human rights. I believe these are the most outstanding parts of this declaration.
This sounds very similar to things that have been said before when you were in Kabul, for instance. I remember you saying, I'd lodge out within 6 to 9 months, etc. What is new? What is the substantially new stuff in this declaration?
In Kabul, one of the main problems with which the Islamic State was confronted was the lack of adequate intellectual members of the government who would have the capability of bringing substantial changes which would serve for the cause of peace in Afghanistan. You are aware of the composition of the previous governments. It used to be composed of mainly party members. I could assure you that the composition of the future government would mainly be non-party members. And this characteristic of government provides assurances for us that the government would be in a position to perform the tasks with which it is entrusted.
Are you in contact with the Talibans?
We have declared the conditions for direct negotiations with the Taliban. We have no problem in contacting the Taliban as soon as they agree on certain steps which have been outlined in the resolutions of the General Assembly as well as of the Security Council. One of the conditions for convening or conducting negotiations with the Taliban is their agreement on a general ceasefire throughout the country, demilitarization of the capital, and also convening a sincere and honest dialogue in the demilitarized capital for the purpose of establishing a broad-based transitional government. Of course, the release of prisoners would be one of the steps to be taken, and as soon as the Taliban are declaring their readiness to accept these three conditions, in order to build or establish confidence, the confidence-building measures, the government of Islamic State of Afghanistan would be ready to take steps for the release of prisoners, which would be step by step.
When will this new government be announced?
What was the question?
When will the new government be announced?
I hope within a couple of days.
Where will the legitimacy of that government be? I mean, what right has the government to speak in the name of the people?
Question once again.
Sorry, I just wonder what the government's legitimacy will rest on. Obviously, after elections or Loya Jirga, then the people can speak and so on, but where does the legitimacy of the government, as it's calling itself at the moment, rest?
The government of Islamic State of Afghanistan is a continuation of the government which came into being as a result of a gathering of the people, which used to call it Shura Ahl Halwa. Of course, there were some questions about the Shura Ahl Halwa, but taking into consideration the particular situation, circumstances prevailed in the country, the Shura Ahl Halwa, to a certain degree, was as a result of a gathering of the people, which used to call it Shura Ahl Halwa. Of course, there were some questions about the Shura Ahl Halwa, but taking into consideration the particular situation, circumstances prevailed in the country, the Shurai Ahlu Halwaq, to a certain degree, was in a position to express the aspiration of the people. From that moment on, we have always insisted on the need for the convening of a Loya Jirga, whereby the authorized and elected representatives of the people will decide about the future government, the president, and the constitution, and other important political issues for which we have not been able to find an answer. But because of the continuation of the conflict, we have not been able to convene that kind of Loya Jirga. It is our expectation that the United Nations, as an organization belonging to no side, will exert efforts in order to bring about this Loya Jirga.
Have you had contact with the UN about all this?
We will immediately, as I said, this declaration was adopted yesterday, and I've been entrusted to contact Dr. Hall and also the Secretary General of the United Nations, and I'm planning to send a letter to the Secretary General informing him about the content of this declaration, and as well as the expectation of the people of Afghanistan for a positive contribution, a bolder action, a more courageous action by the special mission to bring about a complete peace and stability to the country.
Who has been elected as the head of this government?
طبعا تو یک شخصیتی به حیث رهبر یا زعیم جبهه متحد انتخاب نشده، اما فکر نمی کنیم که ضرورت هم در این مرحله برای تعیین یک شخصیت به حیث زعیم جبهه متحد موجود باشه. چیزی را که ملت افغانستان توقع داره یک حکومت مؤثری که وحدت ملی افغانستان نمایندگی کرده بتانه و یکی از اهداف اساسی این تصمیم گیری جبهه متحد همیست که یک حکومت که مشکلات کنونی افغانستان برش راه حل پیدا کرده بتانه ایجاد شود. و ما قسمی که پیشتر گفتم امیدوار هستیم که در ظرف نهایت 2-3 روز دیگه امی حکومتی که تغییر شکل میکنه، حکومت پیشتر موجود بود، در ترکیبش یک سلسله تغییرات رونما خواهد شد، این حکومت اعلان شد.
چند پیش هم حکومت تشکیل کابینه جدید تشکیل داده بودند. آیا بو گفت پاورجای است؟ فکر میکنم چند پیش ما شاید ترمیم کابینه بدیم. در این مورد شما چی میگید؟
من فکر میکنم ضروریات و نیازمندی های خاص امروز اوضاع و شرایط بسیار متفاوت میسازه از شرایط پیشتر. من قسمی که پیشتر به جوابی که سوالا گفتم اونا پرسان کردن که از خصوصیات عمده حکومت چی خواهد بود و برشان گفتم که یکی از خصوصیات عمده و متمایزی حکومت آینده میخواد بود که مرکب از عمدتاً مرکب از شخصیت های غیر تنظیمی تشکیل خواهد شد.
سوال از اونا که رول رهبری تغییر میکنه صورت پیل یا نمیکنه به انگلیسی.
A question was asked whether the United Front has a leadership or one particular personality is serving as leader. And the answer was that at this stage there has not been any decision to appoint the leader of the United Front, and I do not think there would be a pressing need for electing or selecting one particular personality to serve as leader of United Front. All what is expected is to create an effective government which would enter into a series of political activities through the United Nations for bringing about an end to the conflict, to consolidate the political process, as well as to bring substantial changes, which I elaborated.
The Taliban in the past didn't accept similar conditions by you or similar demands. What makes you think that